If your garage door is anything like mine is, it's way too loud and I've put off maintenance on this for far too long. So in this video, we're going to talk about some ways you can properly maintain your door, which should go a long way to cutting down the noise. One of the best and easiest things you can do to not only reduce noise, but also to increase the lifespan of your garage door is to simply make sure it's properly lubricated. The first rule of thumb is to make sure the area that you're lubricating is as clean as possible. So you want to take a rag or a shop towel or something like that to wipe away as much dirt, dust, and debris as you can before applying the lubrication. Generally speaking, I like to start with the rollers because those can accumulate a lot of dust and dirt over time, and they can be a significant source of noise too. So you want to make sure to spray lubricant in on both sides of the pin, and sometimes the bracket that the pin slides into has an access port on the top. If yours has that, I would highly recommend spraying some lubricant inside of that hole as well to make sure that pin is completely covered. Be sure to spray the wheel bearings as well, but try to avoid getting any lubricant on the wheels themselves, because lubricating these wheels can actually cause them to slip as the garage door is moving up and down, which can create more noise in the end. Now, there's a lot of questions as to what type of lube is the best when it comes to garage doors, and a lot of people think that WD-40 is not a good choice, or they say it's not a good choice when it comes to lubricating garage doors, and generally speaking, they're correct. Now, the reason for this is because WD-40 isn't actually a true lubricant. It can lubricate things temporarily, but it's not a permanent lubricant. So we do want to stay away from WD-40 in general when it comes to the garage door. Now, if you want to, you can use another type of WD-40 product, and that's one from their specialist line. So right here, I've got the WD-40 silicone-based spray, and this will provide a long-lasting lubrication to your door. Now, if you don't want to use a silicone-based spray, that's also fine. You can use a white lithium grease spray, and that's also typically recommended for garage doors. I tend to stay away from the white lithium grease though, because it can attract more dust and dirt and debris over time, and I really don't want that happening on my garage door, especially because the garage door is in a pretty dusty environment. A lot of people forget about this point. This is where the cable that raises and lowers the garage door attaches to the door, and that's going to be at the bottom of the door, and there's going to be a stud that comes out on both sides of the garage door where this cable is connected to. This doesn't move very much, but it does move a little bit as the door goes up and down. If you don't lubricate this part, it can be the source of some major squeaks and squeals because the sound will travel up through this entire cable, making it really hard to pinpoint. So make sure you lubricate this stud and then the one on the other side to eliminate that issue. These aren't lubricated properly. It can also be a source of fraying, and I'm not sure if you can see this here, but there's a point where this cable is fraying out in a couple of spots. So this is going to be caused by friction occurring over time. So again, it's just another reason to lubricate this point. Since silicone spray is clear, you can use it any place where metal rubs up against metal, which means you can use it on all the hinges, and you can even use it in between panels if you need to. Torsion springs can be another source of noise because these springs will wind and unwind themselves as you raise and lower the garage door. Be sure to use a liberal amount of lubricant here. This is not the time to be stingy with this. It needs to seep through the cracks of the spring to make sure everything is coated. For complete coverage, it's also a good idea to raise and lower the garage door a couple of times after you treat the springs. Next, you should treat the cable drum where the cables roll on and off of the torsion bar. You should also treat the torsion bar where it connects to the wall on both ends of the garage door, as well as in the center, because this bar does rotate. You should lubricate the door arm as well where it attaches to the door. This is typically held in place by a pin that's inserted into the arm. You should also lubricate the pin that attaches the arm to the trolley, and that trolley is what opens and closes the garage door. It moves across the rail. And speaking of the trolley, this is also a good time to make sure the trolley itself is lubricated. And if you're using a silicone-based lubricant, that's totally fine to use on anything that's plastic or nylon-based. It's even a good idea to clean and lubricate the entire rail. If you have a belt-driven garage door opener, make sure you don't get any lubricant on the belt itself. It doesn't need it, and in fact, it can cause issues if you get it on there. So applying it to a rag before you apply it to the rail is the best choice here. If you do have a chain, I'd recommend a lithium-based grease for this instead of the silicone-based grease. However, if you do have silicone and not the lithium grease, that should be fine as well. Just know you might have to reapply it more frequently. If you want to go the extra mile, you can clean out the tracks as well if you want to. However, if your garage isn't really dirty and you don't have a lot of gunk and buildup in these tracks, it's really unnecessary. If your garage door shakes and rattles as it goes up and down, it's a good idea to make sure all of your bolts are tightened. These can loosen up over time, especially with a lot of use, so tightening them once a year is always a good idea. Be sure the bolts are snug and don't over tighten them because a lot of the metal the bolts attach to is soft and you can strip them easily. If after all that your garage door is still too noisy, there are some other things you can do.
Your rollers themselves might be the culprit. These are often cheap, especially when you have builder grade construction. You can pick up replacement rollers that are a lot higher quality and can be a lot quieter than your typical run-of-the-mill rollers. And this next tip probably goes without saying, but if your garage door opener is older, it's probably the source of a lot of the noise that's related to your garage door opening and closing. Older garage door openers or even cheaper models tend to be much noisier than their newer and more expensive counterparts. It's worth looking into upgrading your garage door opener, especially if you know your opener is older or if you have a chain-driven model, because the belt-driven models are much, much quieter. My door still has some rattles, but this is a lot better than it was. Be sure to hit the like button if you found this video helpful, and also check out this other video next where I talk about replacing your garage door opener with a newer, quieter, and better model. All right, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.